In our positive and very unhappy society, you'll find that most people are taking some kind of drug. It could be a medication, antidepressant, anxiety medication, or maybe they drown their sorrows with alcohol, or maybe some other kind of drug. Because our positive, enthusiastic society is very unhappy. And why is it unhappy? Well, because being positive and optimistic and those kind of things are a kind of sickness. So, and a measure of how sick our society is that you cannot even mention negativity to the average person. You can't do it, they'll run away. I'll tell you in a short while what they're running away from, but to be negative, you have to be very brave. But you also have to be sensible in that you cannot talk about negativity to your average Joe or Karen. You just can't do it. You'll become a laughingstock. And of course I'm making myself vulnerable talking about it. But I'm an old guy and I don't care. I've tried many, many things in my pursuit of happiness. And one of the things that will make you more miserable than anything else is pursuing happiness. So, pursuing negativity and eventually experiencing the joy of negativity is only for the brave and for people who can keep their mouth shut and don't try and convince your average Joe of what it is they're learning or whatever. So you need to have a good deal of inner honesty. All the fairy tales you've told yourself and all the conditioning you've got from society, you need to be honest about whether it's working for you. Most people can't be honest about those things because they're so emotionally invested in them. And you need to be willing to ignore the herd. And that's difficult because, to a large extent we are herd animals. And to have an inner life that is different from pretty much everyone you meet requires bravery and a willingness to do it. So let's talk about positivity, the thing that is making everybody mentally ill. You'll find plenty of people pushing positivity, spiritual people, self-help people, psychologists, psychiatrists, psychoanalysts. In fact, pretty much anyone who's selling some kind of service will be doing so in a way that is positive or with a positive bias. Interestingly enough, in psychology, there's now a recognition that this positive bias is making people mentally ill. There's a movement called depressive realism, which is gaining some ground. There's negative psychoanalysis, negative psychoanalysis. Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, said, well, look, you're never going to be happy. What is this guy talking about? Anyway, so positivity. Why are we so hooked on positivity? It's because you have a survival drive, what the ancients call the conatus. Your drive to make sure that you keep going, to make sure that you eat food every day, that you seek medical help when you need it, that you have shelter, that you have maybe people around you that you can trust and so on. It's all about survival. So if somebody comes along talking about, well, the negative effects of the survival drive, and there are many, people are not going to want to hear it. It spoils their little party. So we only really are interested in life-affirming statements. You don't know how deep negativity goes, and I can't convey it in this podcast, but it is truly liberating. Anyway, so the life-affirming statements. Oh, look at those beautiful flowers. Oh, we went on holiday to so-and-so. Oh, we're getting a new car, or I've just got a promotion at work, da-da-da. You'll notice that all these things that people commonly talk about are life-affirming things, because the survival drive demands it. And anybody who comes along and says, well, I've got terminal cancer, I'll probably be dead in a week, they're going to be shunned to some extent. I mean, there may be pretend, attempts to, oh, well, I'm so sorry, da-di-da-di-da, but people want to move on to where they're going for their holiday next year and so on. So the survival drive just wants nice things. It wants a nice world. And there are millions of people ready to sell you that. Spiritual people, nirvana, salvation, enlightenment. If they weren't promising something nice, no one would pursue it. So if it became widely known that enlightenment was a state of deep pain, nobody would want it. But if it's sold as some kind of cosmic consciousness where you become free of your conditioned existence, then yeah, everybody's going to want that. So to be positive, you only are allowed to think and talk about positive things, life-affirming things. You cannot talk and you cannot think about death, suffering, trauma, sadness, anxiety, depression. You can't talk about those things. Because people can't talk about them, it all gets suppressed, and they end up going to the doctors for antidepressants or whatever. I think it's 1 in 6 people in the West now takes antidepressants or anxiety medication, because we're in such deep denial about the real nature of life, not just what the survival drive is telling them. So if you're not taking anti-anxiety meds, you'll be taking, or antidepressants, you'll be drinking yourself stupid every night, or you'll be taking some kind of drug, some, is it fentanyl now or something? I don't know, I've lost contact with it all, but people are seeking oblivion, because living a positive life is painful, and it's painful for the reasons I've told you. It's in denial of the real facts of life, and so we live in a state of neurosis, and that's painful. So if you want to be treated like a leper by society, talk about the negative. In other words, anything that contradicts the survival drive. So, in negativity, what we do is we try as far as possible to look at life using our intelligence. Just look at the facts. And we're not seduced by the survival drive, which would only have us paint a pretty picture of it all. In fact, I put a statement up on Facebook and about our ability to negate. And this guy answered, "Oh, I don't like these negative types. I think that life is just full of opportunity." Well, go fuck it. I shouldn't swear, should I? But go do it. Go seize your opportunities and all the rest of it. So, negativity. We look at the facts. So, we die. That should give you some kind of view on what's going on in your life. Your life is a process of decay from start to finish. You'll lose loved ones, probably. You'll fall ill. Maybe you'll have financial problems at some point. And above all, your ambitions and your chasing things and trying to satisfy desires will never bring satisfaction. It would defeat the aim of the survival drive if you were satisfied. Because if you were satisfied, you wouldn't be striving anymore, and you wouldn't be serving the needs of the survival drive. A satisfied person is not what the survival drive wants. If you've got 10 million, it will want 100 million, and so on. We also live in a world of illusions. So we have illusions that kind of, they're based around half a dozen things. Around the idea of truth. You can't know truth. It's a silly idea. Again, there are reasons why we can't know truth, but I'm not going to go into it in this. It's already long enough. Ideas of an objective morality. And of course the religions and spiritual people all tell us there's an objective morality. And they know what it is, so they're better than you. That there's a purpose in life. That there is meaning in life. That there is beauty. There's no such thing as beauty. There's either life affirming or life negating. That's all it is. There is to it. You could call it life affirming is beautiful and life negating is ugly. But objectively, there is no such thing as beauty or morality or any of the other things I've just mentioned. Our survival drive is responsible for a huge amount of suffering, conflict, territorial. It's essentially territorial. And that territory might be ideas, and it might actually be land, like the war in Ukraine at the moment. Or it might be possession of a person, some relationship where the person cannot speak to other people or something. So the survival drive is all about grabbing whatever it can, about possession and territory. So I have a little quote just to give you a flavour for the wonderful stuff that's out there. Emil Swarol, and there are different ways of pronouncing that. I think Shoira. God, what is it? He's Romanian. The French, I think, pronounce it Swarol, but the Romanians pronounce it Shoiran or something like that. Anyway, let me show you the quote. Shock horror. Nobility is only in the negation of existence. Why? Well, because it's, billions of people are affirming existence and becoming very unhappy because of it. Nobility is only in the negation of existence in a smile that surveys annihilated landscapes. Beautiful stuff. If you want to get really negative, read Swarol. Anyway, so there is great joy in negativity for the simple reason that we stop rubbing up against reality. We accept life for what it is, not what our survival drive would tell us it is. So we see life for what it is, and we lose many of the causes for pain, and we become happier. Although, in all honesty, it is difficult for people to lose all their conditioning and the brainwashing they've received from society over time. So we become happier because there's no conflict between the stories we tell ourselves, which positive people do. Your 5 gratitudes every morning, it's just a story you tell yourself, and then life doesn't deliver what you expect, and why should it? And you become unhappy. So there's no conflict between reality and our ideas about life. So, yeah, I'm an old guy. I'll probably be dead within 5 or 10 years, and maybe, in the next 10 minutes, as far as I know. But, for the younger people here, pursue negativity. Read people like Swarron and Schopenhauer and Ligotti and, a whole pile of stuff. And whatever you do, don't mention it to anybody else.